Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about DAX information functions. There are totally 32 DAX functions are available, which will help you to look at your cell or row that you provide the arguments, right? So whether the values are particular values are matches with your expected type or expected behavior or not. So those scenarios, you can use these 32, not all 32, some of the functions, you can use it in your scenario and handle your cases, right? So normally if you refer the normal SQL scripting, right, where you will have their functions like useful, like whether the particular column is having the numeric values or text values, or if you have any raise error, if you want to particular behavior you want to raise error, right? So and you write the try catch in your stored procedure, right? Same way, the similar functions are available in DAX, like where you can check whether that particular value is the text value or number value, or whether it's a even value or odd value, or you can raise your raise error. So if at all particular value that you passed is not matching, then you can raise like error. So these kind of to perform such a actions, these information functions are very useful. So there are totally 32, and we're going to have a detailed discussion about each function with good examples. Now without further delay, let's get into the function by function. First function we're going to talk about column statistics. Column statistics function will actually provide the quick summary about your model. So how many tables are there, what are the columns are available, what are the minimum value, maximum value, what is the cardinality of the particular column. All those details the column statistics function will provide. Usually this will help you to justify whether you need to filter out the data while you're doing the development of the dashboard in your desktop, or you can onboard the entire data from table to your desktops. Generally, there will be sometimes what will happen, you will have a lot of records in your fact table or dimension table, right? It's not a good advice to dump entire data into your local in terms of the Power BI desktop or in terms of the tabular cube, right? So that time what we do, we restrict the data, and then once we deploy the solution to Power BI service or Azure analysis service, what we do, we just remove that filter so that the entire data will get refreshed in the service instead of in our local. So similarly, during that time, the column statistics will help you to check the entire summary of your table. Based on that, you can decide whether you can onboard entire data during the development or not. Okay, so now let's get into the details, some example how we can use the column statistics function. So column statistics function we cannot directly write in SSMS because it's not recognized as a inbuilt function in the SSMS. So there is other way that you can use this column statistics function to achieve your requirement. So now let's see how we can do that. So what I did here, I just opened the Power BI, one of the Power BI desktop, and here I connected, I just used the analysis service connection. From the get data, I used the analysis service connection. From there, I connected to the AdventureWorks and bring the internet sales fact table. Just only for demo purpose, I loaded only the internet sales. Now, using this internet sales, we can use the column statistics function to get the stats of this particular internet sales. How you can do it? Once you load the internet sales into your Power BI desktop, go to the external tools, and here you will have the DAX Studio. Click on the DAX Studio. So once you connect to the external tool DAX Studio, now here you will be connected to the your Power BI model, right? So now what we're going to do here, we'll write the statements. So what I'm going to do, I'll use the define table function. Define table. I'll say table name is test, and here I'll do, seems DAX Studio is frozen. Yeah, calculate table, and I'll use the internet sales is my table. So based on the internet sales, I'm defining the new table. Now if I write evaluate, and then use the column statistics function. Now you can see here, column statistics function is recognized as an inbuilt function, right? So now that's it. Once we do that, execute statement, then you get the, you see all the stats. So you got the table name, what is your table name, because I hard coded here, right? So that's the reason the table name. Under the table name, how many columns you have, and what is the minimum value of each column, what is the maximum value of each column, what is the cardinality of the particular column. So cardinality is nothing but the distinct values, how many distinct values are there, and the max length of the value in each column, right? So you can see here, and all this information. So this is very handy. Even you can see here under the some of the date functions, right? It's showing that what is the minimum date, what is the max date, and the year, what is the minimum year, what is the max year. All these details, quick summary details, is fetching the column statistics function. So this is how we use the column statistics function. But apart from this, there are other scenarios where you can, use this column statistics function to fetch what are the number of tables are available in your model, right? And what are the number of columns are available in your model. So all those details also you can get it using the column statistics function. So that's about column statistics function. Next function we're going to talk about contains. This is the second function from the list. So this function is actually returns the true or false values based on the text or based on the integer value that we're trying to check in particular column, whether it exists or not. If the value exists in that column at any point, it will return the value as a true. Otherwise, it will return the value as a false. Let's go into the examples. Here I write some examples. So here I'm first just write the basic statement with the fact sales information, and after that I created some restricted columns by using the select columns from the fact sales. And here I'm taking the date, seller geo, buyer geo code, and there is a new column that I created. Okay, so this column is actually will tell you whether the UK record, UK country code, right? Is that country code exist in your seller geo code or not? So I mean, it will return the true or false if the value exists under this column. And this the function that I used here is the contains. So it will take, basically contains will take the three parameters. One is the table name, other one is your column, the column which you're trying to search, and then value. So whichever the value that you want to search under the specific column, you need to mention that column value here. And you can go with n number of column and their values. There is no restriction. But yeah, minimum it's required three parameters, right? And now if I execute this query, and then here you can see whether that particular UK record is exist in the column or not. So it's saying the true, by the way. So the true value will be repeated for all the rows in the table. So remember, this search works on the column level. So if the record exists, let's say you have a 200 rows in your table, right? Out of the 200 rows, you have one row that you're searching is exist in that table, right? And the true value will be returned to all 200 rows, stating that the record exists, the combination exists at column level, right? I hope it's clear. Now similarly, now I want to the next example, I want to search two combinations. Seller geo code equals to UK and buyer geo code is AU, Australia. Whether this combination exists or not, we'll check. So now here you can see, so the combination exists. That's the reason. Again, this column, I think I need to remove this column name, and country code exists. Now you can see here the combination exists. These two values exist in the two columns. Now if I change a little bit here, instead of AU, I'll put it AUL because this record does not exist. Now it will throw the false because these two combination does not exist. Even you have a UK is exist, but the buyer code AUL is not, does not exist. That's the reason this newly created column is populating as a false instead of true, right? So that's how these contains work. In fact, you can further use these contains function in different way. So here what I'm doing, I just bring the data using the select function, and that is my subquery. And within the subquery, I use the calculate table. By using this subquery, I'm trying to filter, only bring the data if the seller geo code is equals to UK. If that is exist in the data, only bring the entire result, otherwise don't bring any results. That's how I'm writing here. So since the UK row is existed, then it brings the all the transactions. And similarly, you want to exclude UK, right? So then those scenarios you can use the not contains. Now in this scenario, what will happen? You won't get any records because the UK record exists in your table, right? And if I change this, let's say UKL, right? UKL does not exist, right? Now it will bring the records from the table. Okay, so this is how you can use the contains. So basically contains works like a like operators in SQL if you refer to the SQL terminology. So you can write a number of expressions here that I shown. Here I just played with only the two columns, but likewise you can add another column name here and then the column value, and similarly you can add one more column and their value you can mention it here. So if all that combination exists in the table, then it will return the result. Otherwise you will get the empty rows. Not empty rows. So since I'm using here as a column, right? So we'll get false. If the record exists, then it will get the true. But similarly, if you write the same condition here, all those conditions, if the combination exists, then you will get the results. Otherwise, you will not get any records from the query. That's about contains. Function is, which is third function, we're going to talk about contains row. So basically it will kind of returns the true and false if the particular row value exists in that particular table. Otherwise, it will return the false. I mean, basically it's kind of, does the search and then fetch the true or false. So most of the time we're going to use this function in our filter criteria, but let's show some examples, right? Okay, here are my examples. And then if we're going to talk about examples, let's quickly review the syntax. It will take the basically three parameters. One is the table, two parameters. One is the table, other one is the values that you are trying to search. Okay, so you can use a number of values by using the curly brackets. Right, now let's get into the example. Here is first example. I use the contains row function along with my summarize columns. What I'm doing here, here I just submit of entire rows, the fact sales net USD, and then a second query, second column, I'm defining the count of rows, number of rows, the seller geocodes, and third one is I'm filtering the UK sales. If my seller geocode is having the UK, and bring the sum of sales of net USD for that particular seller geocode equals to UK. And for non-UK, other than UK, I want to sum it up and store it in the non-UK sales net USD. That is my requirement. So this is how we use the syntax. So we can say that within the first I use the filter. Filter is our main criteria to filter out the data, right? So it will take the table as a input first parameter. Instead of table, I given the all seller geocode values. Within the seller geocode values, I'm instructing use the UK if the UK contains in that particular seller geocode, and then bring their sales net USD information. Right, so that's how it will read it out. And the second case, non-UK sales net USD, it's the same, but instead of taking the UK sales, it will exclude the UK sales and bring the rest of the sales and display under the non-UK sales net USD. So that's how we use this contains row in the summarize function. Now move on. Here are the few more examples where I'm trying to create a separate table based on top of my fact sales table. Here I'm using the filter condition. Within that filter, what I'm saying, so take the all seller geocodes out of the seller geocodes. If UK and France country codes exist, then bring the fact sales information. Now if I execute this, you will get only it will bring the UK and France. The same statement I can write in using the in clause. So even if I, instead of contains rows, if I use the in clause, still my requirement will get fulfilled much easily. If you look at the number of statements that I used in this filter statement, it's very complex, right? But if I use the in clause, it's a pretty straightforward and very easy. It's a simple, right? But why do we need contain rows, right? So that is the catch here. So if you look at DAX operators, not in is the valid DAX operator. So that's the where we're going to use the contains rows. So how we're going to exclude the UK transactions, you can write like a not contains row. Then it will exclude the UK transactions and bring the rest of the transaction to the new calculated table. However, you can use the continue instead of in, you can continue use the contains row function for your requirement, no problem, you can use it. And then here you can see UKL is not exist, that's the reason it's showing the blank rows, right? So that's about contains row. So basically, I mean, to me, it's like most of the time we're going to use for not in clause, because for instead of contains row, we can use the in clause. Yeah, that's the simplest and easiest and tidiest one, the statement that you can write. But wherever you have not in clause needs to be used, then you can use the not contains row function. So that's about contains row function. The fourth function is the contains string. This is the again, it will return the true or false value based on your search criteria, and the functionality that this function will perform, whether the one string contains in other string or not. That is the simple task it will do. It's like you given one string, the big lengthy string. Within the string, if you're searching for some words, it will help you to let you know that whether it's exist or not. Let's get into the examples for more clarity. So before we going there, the syntax for the contains string is it will take the text one and then it will take the text two. So text one will be within the text that you want to pass it, and text two will be the word or the number that you want to search from the text one. So that value will pass it under the find text. So these are the two parameters it will take. Now, if you take the example, so the simple example, right? If you write normal examples, what I'm doing here, I just wrote one big string. I say I love to write DAX queries. Within this string, I want to search whether the DAX is exist or not. So since it exists, the DAX, that particular word exists in that string, it return the true. But if you take it second example, I'm trying to search the DAX2, but DAX2 it does not exist, right? That's the reason it return the false. Right, so it's not like a fuzzy lookup match. It will like search for the whatever the find text that you passed, it is there, then it will return the true or false. So not only that, you can use these content string along with select columns. And here what I'm doing, I'm searching the road, that is my find text word within my model name column. So now you can see here, first three rows, this road value does not exist, but rest of the rows it exists. That's the reason it marked as a true. So that's how you can use the contain string to find whether the particular string exists or not in your data set. Function is contain string exact. So basically, it's a more or less same like a fourth function, which is the contain string. It will search one string in another string, and again it will return the true or false values. But the difference between the contain string and contain string exact is contain string exact is the case sensitive. It's expect to match the values whatever you search, right? Those values should match exactly, then only it will return the true, otherwise it will always state the false. Now let's go into the examples, and before we go there, here is the syntax contain string exact. It will take the within text and find text, these two parameters it will take. And now you can see the difference here. Let me execute these two statements, one with the contain string, other one with the contain string exact. So one will return the true, other one will return the false, because it's expecting the exact case sensitive. So now if I change this to uppercase, then you can see here it will return the true value. But yeah, again, if I change to lowercase, it will return the false. And even if I put previously camel notation, right? So DAX, it will give the false. So that's how the contain string exact works. You can see more examples here along with select columns. So what I'm doing here for this column, I'm using the contain string where I'm searching the road, so with uppercase, but it returns the true because it's not worried about uppercase or lowercase. It search in the whether the particular row exists or not. But if you look at third column, that's where I give an exact road with camel notation R capital, and this time I use the contain string exact, it returns the true. But the last column, you can see here I'm using the contain string exact, but here I given the road as a capital letters, then it's showing the false. So that's the main difference between the contain string and contain string exact. Contain string exact is the case sensitive, so please be aware of it. That's about the contain string exact. The sixth function is the custom data function. So custom data function is actually help you to pass any custom value to the connection string. I mean, basically it works like a parameter to your connection string. Most of the time we use this function along with roles. Okay, so now let's see, let's try to explain and see how we can easily make it work of this custom data function. Okay, so now I'm in Visual Studio, my tabular cube, and here I'm going to create one role. So this is my new role. I'll say what I'll say. Let me pull it up. And so here what I'll do, I will say this role is buyer geo role, and here I create read access, and then read access. Once I grant the read access, then here I will try to write the my DAX function. Okay, let me see. Table contains buyer geo code, right? Buyer geo code. Let me do write some function here, right? Okay, so it's about filters. I'll write if custom data equals to blank, then false, false. Okay. Otherwise, take the buyer geo code. For now, I'll keep the buyer geo code equals to my custom data. It's about this if function. I hope I closed all perfectly. Here the bracket open, and here is the bracket closed. Right, now my role is more instead of we check the role, so we ask the user to pass the geocodes what he is looking for. Okay, so now let me click OK and then deploy the cube. So now I deploy the tabular cube and it's deployed. Now let me open Excel file. So here is my Excel file, and then here what I'll do, I'll try to connect my from database from my analysis service, and then what is my instance name, localhost tabular cube, localhost tabular, and then I will connect to retail tabular cube and finish. Now pivot table report. Okay, now let's see what will happen because I'm admin, right? I think I'm able to see all the data, but let's see what will happen. Yeah, I'm able to see all the data because I'm admin, but whoever part of that you know uh, that particular role, right? So they need to pass their geo country codes here. Okay, so now what will happen, you go to properties and okay, and then within the properties you can pass extra parameter, so stating that custom data equals to UK, right? Click OK. Let's see what will happen. Okay, again, since I have admin access, it seems it's not allowing me to you know uh, pass anything, but that's how usually it will work. Okay, so along with your connection string, so you can pass your custom value here, UK. I think, do I need to give UK in double quotes or what? I think let me try giving in double quotes. No, but yeah, I mean, I don't have any additional user to test this in my local, but yeah, this is the scenario where you use the custom data to pass it to along with your connection string. I mean, most of the time we use it in security purpose. Try it from your end. I'm happy to help you in offline if you have a more security roles and the users are exist. You can try with them and see how it works. Okay, so but this is the main purpose of the custom data function. Has one filter is having the only one parameter if you refer the syntax, so it will take only the column name, and based on that it will return the true or false. Now if we look at the examples, here what I'm trying to do as per the definition, right? So if that particular column is having at least one value to filter, then it will be return the true, otherwise it will return the false. Now if you look at this example, I'm using the summarized columns, and then I'm just trying to fetch the sales NDP USD at a category level and subcategory level. So now if I notice the results, I'm getting the data for bikes and subcategory level and sales information. At the same time, I'm also getting the only road bikes sales information. Now there is the column that I newly created, true or false, where I'm using the has one filter function. Now the subcategory, just I want to check whether we have any at least one filter value in this column. Yes, because again, if I execute this statement, you're getting the results, right? That means there is a one, at least one filter value that we can filter out on the subcategory column. Even if I use the category, change this to category, even I'll get the true as my return value, because I can do the filter on even the at least one filter I can do on the category level, right? So it will return the true. Now if I change this to product, right? So in this query, it will return the false, because product column I didn't select it under my display results, right? That's the reason it's showing the false. Not only product, if I change this to product line, and still it will show the false value, because I'm not using that column in my results, and there is no chance of having the filter because I'm not using it in my result set, right? That's the reason it will return as a false. Okay, so that is the one use case that you can understand. And the second thing, where here we define the measure, one new measure, and then we're calling that measure in the summarize columns result. Okay, now we'll see what will happen. Maybe you can remove this statement which is not required, that we covered in the previous example, right? Now if I execute this, what will happen? Let me do this. So the newly defined measure here, I'm trying to fetch the sum of my, not sum of, so I'm trying to check whether the given values, right? Here I given the two values, road bikes and road without space bikes, right? Now if I execute this statement, what will happen? Can I do at least one filter? Yes, because the road bikes is the valid filter that I can apply. But even if I change this road bikes to different value, now out of these two values, do we have any single value in that column? Let's see what will happen. So now we'll get the false, because out of these two values that we passed, right, there are the no values exist in the particular subcategory column. So that's the reason it's returning the false. So it's again, it will, the has one filter is always, watch the given column name. At least if the value exists to filter, then it will return the true. Or if you pass the string of values, out of the string of values at least one value exists in the subcategory column, then it will return the true, otherwise it will return the false. That's the advantage of the has one filter. Usually whenever we write these DAX queries through the front end application, right, whenever the user pass any parameters from the front end application, then you need to validate whether the whatever the user passed the values in the predefined text, whether the values exist or not, right? So then you can validate and return the message to user stating that the values does not exist. Instead of you hit the server and run the query, then you realize the empty results. Instead of doing that way, you can do these pre-validation checks in the front end by using these functions. Okay, so similarly, has one value also works in the same way. It will be checking whether at least one value, so the given values, right, list of values, out of these list of values, whether you have at least one value exist in that column, then it will return the true, otherwise it will return the false. Here is the example. So here there is the value exists, that's the reason it's written the true. And then if I change this to 2, since there are no values, the two values that I given does not exist in the subcategory, then it will return the false. So this is how you use both has one filter and has one value functions. Uh, so the next two functions that we're going to talk about is 9 and 10. One is the is after, other one is the is on or after. Okay, so these two functions are little tricky functions. I mean, especially sometimes we instead of filtering the data, we can use this function to reduce our volume of the data. It's like a top, right? Top function in SQL, right? So the similar functionality you can notice in these two functions. So the difference between two functions is, one, it will include the results, whatever the filters that we mentioned, right? What is the criteria that we mentioned, it will include those results. Other function will not include those results. We can get into the details when we go to the example. But if you look at the definition, so it will be it's a Boolean function. It belongs to the Boolean function family, and the behavior is it will be works like a start at, right? So generally, if you want to, if you have 1,000 rows, out of the 1,000 rows, you want to start your results from particular row, right? So these scenarios, these two functions are very helpful. So that's where it's mentioning that you can start your results whenever you're returning any results from the dimension or fact table. And then if your all conditions that mentioned within this function, if it is a meet all conditions that you passed, then it will start fetching the data whatever we defined it. Maybe the definition wise it's a bit confusion, then that's the reason we're going to look at some examples. So what we're going to do, so we'll cover is on or after function first, because it's working in the SSMS. But is after function, some reasons it's not working in the SSMS, so that's the where we need to use the Power BI and then connect to the DAX Studio, and I'll show you the results how is after works. But is on or after, we can quickly run through the SSMS and see some examples. Okay, let's get into the examples. Here are the examples. If you look at the syntax of these two functions, they both are like the same. They both are same, put it simply. So it will take the one scalar expression, then it will take the second scalar expression. Based on your sorting, it will compare the data, and then it's like a comparison which will happen between the two given scalar expression. Then it will fetch the results. So you can see there is some notes, right? How this sorting, whenever you passed any sort function, the sorting functionality like ascending or descending. So the first parameter is compared with second parameter. That's what we told. And if the sort order is ascending, if the both scalar expression that you're given is in ascending sorting order, then the comparison done is between the first parameter, and then it will take the precedence to the first parameter greater than second parameter. That's what, out of the two functions, based on ascending sorting order, it will give a precedence to the first parameter. If it is a descending format, then the second parameter is less than the first parameter. So it's like giving the precedence again within the expressions. And even the same case for the definition wise, same case for is on or after function. So let's see some examples. And this is my, let me copy this dimension and execute in the parallelly so that we can see the results, what will happen. Okay, so now here I executed the results. Now usually when we write any order by clause, right? So we can write like this. So just saying that order by particular column and start from this particular result. So that's the where you can see the results are started from this row. But if you look at, actually we have many rows, but out of the many rows, I asked to start at fourth row. That is the value I've given. That is how we write in normal order by class. But now I just replace that with is on or after function. So here what I'm trying to do, I want to take the product line road. So that is my product line, and then ascending order, and the product level I'm going to use the road 150 red 56. That's the where my starting point. Now if I execute this, what will happen? It will fetch the records after the value that I passed here. Now what does it mean? You can see here, right? So I asked to start from here, right? So what I'm trying to say, you take the ascending order between the two columns, right? And then start displaying the value from this value, which is the my product road 150 red 56. So that's the reason you can see on the left side you got only the four results, because these are the four results after the specified value. That's the reason these 4 values it's fetched. Now if you do same thing with the descending order, what will happen? It will exclude these 4 values and bring these values, the above values. Okay, so it's like before and after we talk, right? So that's the same functionality we are applying here. Now you can see including the mentioned specified value, the above values it's fetched. Okay, that's the way the descending we use the both columns, we use the descending function. Now so we just use the like a mock tile. One column we do the sorting in ascending format, other one we did the descending format. Now let's see what will happen, how the results will fetch. That again, since it's like a mock tile, and then it fetch the records, right? So okay, first it started ascending order, then it's a descending order, and it brings the data. What happened here? So it's including this, right? It started from here and trying to fetch the records prior to the specified value till here. Okay, so why we got till here? Because the product line that we use the road, right? So the road rows ended here. That's the reason it fetched the records from 44 to 56. Okay, and similarly if you do same thing with shuffling descending versus ascending in this query, now what will happen, we'll see. So for product line it takes the descending, right? So that means these are the values, right? If you look at, these are the prior values at the product line level. That's the way it bought it. And then so I mentioned 56 is ascending, right? Now what will happen? uh, it fetches the data from here to here after values. It just omitted the between values, these 2 3 values based on the descending and ascending order. Okay, so that's about is on or after function. Now moving on, is after function. So but you can see here this is not being recognized in SSMS. So to test or explore this is after function, we need to connect the Power BI desktop. We From the Power BI desktop we connect to this tabular cube. Then we go to the DAX Studio, and DAX Studio will be connecting to the Power BI. So that's where we use the is after function. I'll show you how it will work. I hope I explained clearly on these is on or after function. Let me know your comments if it is creating any confusion. It's like it works like a between clause. Just put it simply. Okay. Now let's explore the is after function. Okay. To explore that, let me open the Power BI desktop. All right. So I'm opening the Power BI desktop. Okay, from Power BI Desktop, I'm going to connect my local tabular queue. So I clicked on Analysis Service, and then okay, I don't want this quick window. So here I passed my local host tabular queue, and I use the import method. Click OK. I mean, seriously, I don't know why is after function is not enabled in SSMS, or any restrictions or any limitations with using an SSMS, but it works in Power BI very effectively. Okay, let me connect here to my retail queue. Under the retail cube, I used only dim product because that's the one we used in our examples, right? Previous examples. Now, to avoid confusion, I just bring the dim product connection, creating connection model. It's a strange. Only we just have only 14 rows, I think, but it's taking long time to download the data to Power BI desktop. Yeah, 10 rows loaded. Okay, good. So now we have our product dimension is available. Now what I'll do, I'll go and click here, external tools, and DAX Studio. I open the DAX Studio. Okay, what I'll do, I'll translate these functions. I will copy paste. And then I'll also copy this ISOP function. Okay, I will just change this to retail cube. I think it's better to double click all the time so that we'll get the results, not get any reference problems. Here I will do what I'll do, instead of dim product line, I will just double click here so that it will bring that, and copy these results and put it here. And also I will just do remove this product line. Here also I do the same product, and here also we use the retail cube, right? Okay, so there you go, we got the two queries. Now if I execute these two queries, now see the results. You need to pay attention here. The same query, both places I use ascending condition, but the functions are different. One is the is on or after function, other one is the is after function. Now if you look at the first query result, it's fetching the 4 rows because it refers to 56, right? Product 56, and it will fetch the records after 56. But if you look at second results, it fetches only 3 rows. That means whatever we included under the product, right? So we asked them to start from 56, right? So the is after explicitly excluded the specified value. From there, whatever the values we have in after, right? So all those values it's returned, right? So that is the main difference. One function will keep the is on or after function will keep the specified values, and is after function will not, will exclude the specified value, but it will apply the remaining functionality of is on or after function. That is the difference. You can play with is after function by having like descending, and I'm just giving again one more example. So now if we look at here again, we can see the difference. I will execute this query. Now you can see here, so 56, the prior values, it bought it in the first query. But in second query, you can see in first query, it's retrieved how many rows? 3, 6, 7 rows, but in here it fetches the 6 rows. That means again, it's excluded the 56, but prior values it returned. That's about is after. You can play with different combinations and see the results. Again, data quality is must. You need to check before you start using in production. So that's about these two functions. Next two functions that we're going to talk about, 11 and 12, which are one is the ISBLANK, other one is the ISEMPTY. So ISBLANK will help you to check whether the particular results or particular column is returning any blank values or not. If it is a blank values written, then it will the return value will be true, otherwise it will be the false. Similarly, isEmpty function will check whether the particular results or particular table is empty or not. Okay, there is a big difference between the is blank and is empty. Maybe some of the people think that the both are same, but they are not same. Okay, so the best example is if you take the inventory, right? So inventory of any organization. So what will happen, the partners are keep on reporting their inventory on weekly basis. When there is a blank value for that particular partner, that means he reported the inventory, but it's a null value. Null value or blank value because there is no product sold for that week. But is empty for the same partner. If you see that particular measure value as a null, that means the partner never reported any inventory for that week. That is the difference. Is blank and is empty. Normally in cube world, the is blank and is empty will be considered as a same value, right? So be careful when you using these functions. Now let's get into the examples of these two functions. The syntax for this is blank. It will take the single parameter, which is the value. Okay, whatever the value that we need to measure value. That means whatever the measure value that you're going to give it, it will take it. Okay, and we'll look at this example. So what I'm trying to do here in this query, I'm trying to calculate my previous year sales based on my current year sales, right? Now, normally, if I don't use any function here, let me create one more measure so that it will be explained in a better way. I don't think it's required. Let me copy this. We'll say this is the one. This is the 2. In here, I don't want to write any, condition. Let me show you the values as this. And here I take this. Okay, and then now if I execute these 2 statements, there is some problem with okay, syntax problem. What is the syntax problem? Okay, double quotes given the bracket. What is the problem here? Okay, I think I need to use some. This is the find column, right? Okay, got it. Now let me try what will happen. Execute. Still there is syntax error. All right. Okay. Okay. Let me do the one thing. Let me do Control Z. I think something I missed here. Okay. Now this is the original measure. Okay. And what I'll do here. Okay. So I will put this into next row. Then I use this way. PM sales 2. Normally, if I don't check anything here. Okay, now I think we are good. Let me execute. Okay, so now you can see here I'm calculating my previous year value based on the current year. Now if you look at here on this PM sales 2, right, since 2020 is my starting year, so that means player is 2019, which I don't have a result. That's the reason it's showing the blank, right? But when it comes to the PM sales, it's not showing the blank because I did the verification, right? So if my particular measure value is blank, then fill with this default value. Otherwise, display the previous year sales NDP USD. That's the reason it's showing the default value in my PMs. I mean, PM is nothing but previous month. Sorry, it should be previous year. I should say previous year instead of PM, previous month. That's my bad. So that's the reason you can see the default value is displaying wherever we have the blank. And similar case, you can check here. So is blank again. What I did here, wherever I have the seller geocode is UK, then populate the blank values. Otherwise, populate the sales NDP USD. That's how I wrote the statement. Now you can see here, if I scroll down, wherever you have UK, okay, I think I filter out the data. Let me unfilter the data. I will execute this. Now let's see what magic will happen. So you will get the data for entire seller geocode as well as your sales and DPUSD, but wherever you have a UK, it shows the blank, but wherever you have a non-UK, then it will show the valid values. Now I want to filter only these blank values, right, from my results. Now what I'll do simply, I will use the filter function on top of my select columns function, then use the isBlank of sales. That's it. Now it will bring only the UK transactions. Those are my blank transactions, right? That's the reason it will bring the UK transaction. But instead of is blank, you don't want to blank values, then you can write not is blank. That's the way you get the, apart from UK, you will get rest of the results. Okay, so that's how you can use the is blank. But yeah, most of our real-time scenario, we use this blank and is blank functions frequently. Moving on, is empty. So is empty, we already talked about whether the particular value exists or not in your table. The is empty function will help. It will take only the table expression or table. So now if you look at here, this is simple statement I wrote to fetch the data from dim product. But if you look at the second statement, what I'm doing here, I'm searching whether my under the category, do we have any clothes? But you can see here I have only the bikes information. I don't have a other than bikes, I don't have any other information. So now what I'm writing here, filter dim product dimension. If my category is clothes and is empty, right, this is true. because cloths data does not exist and it's empty, right? Then it's a true. That's where it's written the true. But if you don't want to see true value, instead of true value you want to see the false, then you can mention that not condition. Then this time it will bring the false value. Sorry, I think sorry, I wrongly typed it. Okay, right, so now it's good. Now it written the false because paths information does not exist. Similarly, you can write in the variable. So here what I'm doing, again the same check I'm doing, whether the category equals to clause, whether these particular transactions exist in the fact sales or not. Based on that, I'm creating the calculated table. If the record exists, it will return the true, otherwise it will return the false. So ISEMPTY of cloth, this filter is validated as a true. That's the reason it's written the true. And same thing we talked about above. So just it will bring the true or false value, whether the particular condition, particular parameter, particular expression passed, then it will return the true or false using the isEmpty function. So that's about these two functions. Now we are going to discuss about two functions, which is ISCROSSFILTERED and ISFILTERED functions. So the both will returns the true or false value. So in terms of the usage, so the ISFILTER function will help you to identify whether that particular column is having the direct filter applied or not. And not only that, even the table level also you can check whether that particular table is applied any filtered condition. That's about ISFILTER. But when it comes to the ISCROSSFILTERED, so it will check whatever the filter that been applied. Let's say you have the product dimension. Under that you have a subcategory. Let's say you apply the filter at subcategory level, right? So is that filter is impacting to the other attributes or other tables that you selected within your query? So it might be impact, right? Let's say if I filter out the bikes information, then I will get only the bikes related information from my fact table, right? So that means there is a cascading impact to the other attributes because of the filter that I applied. To know that cascading impact, the ISCROSSFILTERED function will help. So basically, to put it simply, ISCROSSFILTERED function will help you to check based on the filter criteria whether other columns are getting impacted or not. Right. Let's get into the examples. So both ISCROSSFILTERED and ISFILTERED will take the, either it will take as a table or column name as a parameter. It will be taken as only one parameter. So this is the syntax for the two functions. Now if we take the examples, the first example here, I just use the select column function, right? And then so I filter out the data for the road bikes, right? Instead of table name, what I just passed it as subquery, where it's my dim product is filtered with road bikes. On top of it, I just fetching the category and subcategory information. Now I'm checking with whether the category and subcategory is having the direct filter or not. At the same time, for the subcategory, do we have any cascading impact? Definitely we will not have. So you can see what results will get it. Now you can see here, surprisingly, these three columns are written as a false. That means there is no filter applied or no cross filter impact to the columns, the category and subcategory, because the context is very important, right? So here, yes, I did the filter in here. So the context of the filter is whatever the subcategory equals to road bikes is. This context is only to this level, and I'm using that entire query as a one subquery. Right now the results, first time the results will get fetched from here. On top of it, I'm bringing the columns. That means whatever I'm choosing, the select columns, the columns in the select columns function, right? It's the outer side. That means there is no impact with respect to the filter or cross impact to the filter that I applied in here, right? So now let's take the one more example. Here what I'm doing, I'm just using the summarize columns function, where I'm summarizing the data and aggregating the data, and then also applying some filter condition to aggregate my NDPUSD. Now here what I did, so the columns, three columns I chose to check whether we have any direct filter applied on those columns. At the same time, we use the same columns to check whether the cross filter impact is there or not. Now if I execute the statement, now let's see what will happen. You can see here um, all the columns, right? So whatever we applied, the filter and cross filter, all are returning the true because I'm aggregating the data and also I'm applying the filter here, except the sales and USD. The reason is, so sales and USD we are aggregating and displaying as a new column, and this column is not selected in our result set. That's the reason it's showing as a false. But rest of the columns we have a impact because we are aggregating the data. That is the one reason. Second reason is we have a filter at subcategory level. So because of these aggregation and this filter, the results are getting changed. That means there is a filter is applying, right? Instead of 20 rows, the data is getting aggregated to 5 rows and displaying here. Because of that, the is filter and cross filter are passed as a true condition, right? So let me go to the one more example here, and then here what will happen. So again, here I'm using the select columns, and then you can see here, here also you'll get the false because I didn't apply any filter condition at all. So it's a completely just purely select column function that I used. And but this is the example. You can see here we will get the more insights. Now you can see here I just applied, I'm trying to create a new calculator table based on these columns, based on these conditions. But on top of it, I just use the subcategory as a filter, which is the road bikes. So basically, subcategory column will have a filtered, if you apply the is filter condition, it will be true because it's a direct filter that we applied. But what about other columns? Category. Category, it will be false because I didn't apply any direct query on top of the category. But do we have an impact? Since I applied the filter at subcategory level, do we have impact at category level? Yes. That's the reason it's showing the true. And similarly, did I apply any direct filter on sales and APUST? No. So that's the reason it's showing the false. And the same case for the remaining three. So because I applied this subcategory filter, there will be impact to the sales and APUST because dim product and fact sales are joined, right, based on the product. So there is a there is a cross impact for these road bikes, whatever I apply the filter here. And similarly, there is impact to the dimension product. And also there is a cross impact to the dimension. Yeah, because I applied the subcategory filter, right? So, and it will impact entire dimension results. And same case for the is filtered. Again, did I apply any direct filter on the fact sales? No, that's the reason it's showing the false. And do we have impact, cross impact to the fact sales because of this filter? Yes, that's the reason it's showing the true. So that's how these two functions works, both the is cross filter and is filtered function. Um, one is like direct, you can say like direct check. Other one is like an indirect check. Okay, so that's about these two filter functions. Isin function is help you to identify whether the particular given column or specified column is part of our query or part of our expressions. Basically, it will return true or false, the return value. It will help you like, it will be like scanning your expression or scanning your DAX query to make sure that particular column exists or not whenever you search for it. So those scenarios, you can use the is in scope function. Let's go into the examples. The syntax of the is in scope function, it will take only one parameter, which is the column name. Now, if we take some examples here, what I'm doing here, I'm just summarizing the columns for the buyer geo region subcategory and aggregating the data at NDP level and filtering the sales NDP USD at for road bikes. Now you can see here for subcategory and buyer region, it's written the true because those two columns I used in my query context, right? So here I used it. Whereas sales and USD and category, it's written the false because I'm not using those two columns in my query context. Even I use the sales and USD, but I'm in the form of aggregation. I'm not using that column directly. That means it's not passed to the current query context. So that's the reason you can see the last two columns, right? So it will shows the return the false value, whereas a subcategory and buyer region, it's returning the true. This is the one example. Now moving on to the other example. So you can play with some of your expressions. Here if I execute, what I'm doing here, so here I use the summarize columns, and again I'm just aggregating the sales NDP USD and fetching the sales NDP USD for the road bikes. Now What I want to do, if the user select subcategory and buyer region, I want to display my road bikes NDPUSD. What if the user is selected the category along with buyer region and subcategory? If the user select the category, I don't want to display my road bikes. I want, instead of that, I want to display the 0 or some other measure value, right? So now this is how we write the statement. I use the if statement. Within the if, I'm just checking is in scope of product category. That means that category column is part of our query context. Then it will be written true. That means if it is written true, then the value it will show as a 0. Otherwise, it will show the road bikes NDPUSD. Now you can see here in this query, I selected the category as my query context. Now you can see that particular sales NDPUSD road bikes is written the 0 here because the true condition is evaluated, right? So that's the reason this column is showing 0, but in here it's showing the value of road bike sales, right? So this is the examples. Yeah, so these are the examples that we use the in scope function. Basically, so you can use this is in scope function to dynamically change your measures on the fly. Okay, so that's about is in scope function. Is logical function will help you to return whether the particular value is a logical value, logically true or false. Basically, is logical function will work on the Boolean type columns. It will either return true or false value. Okay, let's get into the examples. Um, the syntax for the is logical function will take only one parameter, which is the value. So it will take either string or number or Boolean type, but based on that it will return the value. Now here what I did, I just passed the true Boolean type, and since it's a valid Boolean type, it's written that is Boolean type or logical. And same case for the next example. Here this time I passed the false. Again, true or false both belongs to the Boolean family, right? So that's the reason here also the first condition is evaluated. That's the reason it's written the is Boolean type or logical value. And here the last example, I passed integer value, and this time it's written as a is different type because 25 is not is logical. Because of that reason, the false statement evaluated in the if condition. So these are the scenarios that you can use the is logical function to identify the Boolean type value. Now we are going to talk about three functions. These three are the ISNONTEXT, ISNUMBER, ISTEXT functions. Basically, these three functions will identify whether the given value or parsed value is a text or a non-text or number. So all these three functions will return the true or false value. Let's get into the examples. So the syntax for these three functions, they will take only the single parameter, which is the value. Okay. So now let's going to see how we can use these three functions. Now in here, what I am just doing the use the if statement whether the given value is non-text or not. If it is the is non-text, it will return the yes. Otherwise, it will return the no. I mean, both the is text and is non-text will work in the same way. So we can execute two of them. So the first value is written the no because it's a text, right? Learn and share value is the text, and you are searching is non-text. Please remember that there is a difference. Is non-text, right? It's a text value. It's not non-text value. That's the reason it's written the no. The next one is text function written the value as yes because this is the text value. And similarly, you can write this way also. You can use the is non-text with the not in clause. Then the results will be exactly opposite compared to the previous results, right? And now here I just pass the integer value in this example. Again, you will get the one is yes, other one is no. That is correct because 10 is not the 10 is a non-text value. That's the reason the if statement evaluated the first value, which is yes. And similarly, you can use for the you can check the boolean. I mean, check with boolean values. Again, it's the same. Boolean is not text or not integer, right? And here also you can see the person the blank value. So first one is non-text. That's this is the yes. I mean, this is written the true because it's a text value, right? So that's the reason it's written the no and yes. But remember that blank cells are not a text value, especially when you taking from the uh, taking from the measure fact table, right? So during that time, blank values are not a text values. Okay, so I mean, depends on context where exactly you're using. If the blank value is there in the data type decimal and float, then it's not a text value. It will be treated as a null value. But when it comes to the dimension, it will be treated as text value. Okay, I think here there is. So moving on, isNumber function. So isNumber function, again, it will help you to search whether the given value is number or not. If it is a number, then it will return yes. Otherwise, it will return no. Basically, it will return the true or false. But since I'm using the if statement, I'm just using the my customized return value. Instead of true or false, I'm returning the yes or no. So now you can execute here. This value will return the yes because that 10 is the integer value, and this time it will return the no because true is not integer value. So that's about these three functions: ISNONTEXT, ISTEXT, and ISNUMBER. ISSelected measure function will help you to identify what is the measure that been selected in the current context. Basically, based on the selection, sometimes you can, play with your logics. Basically, the ISSelected measure will take the list of measures and use those measures to compare with what is the measure that been selected in the current context. Okay, so let's go into some examples to understand in better way. So here selected measure, basically it will take the measure values as a parameter. Okay, but yeah, I'm not able to show here in the SSMS. Instead of that, I'll show the scenario where I use the selected measure. Now if we go back to our tabular cube, hope so you guys still remember this, right? And this is our customized tabular cube that we built it with our own data. At the same time, I hope most of you remember this, right? Where we created the calculation group. Within the calculation group, we converted our normal revenue values to the K format, million format, and uplift by 5%. So these calculations we created in the using the calculation group. If at all, if you want to quickly recap how we created this calculation group, I would suggest to go to the video. This is the video, Data Analytics with DAX Class 21 video. There I explained clearly how we can create the calculation group. In fact, if you want to know that how we created specifically those, this K format, million format, uplift by 5%, these those expressions you want to know, you can directly go to the video at 23. I think, yeah. Here is the where it started with how we create the calculation groups for the formatted values. Okay, so again, just go through this video so that you will understand how we created these values. Now, coming to our topic, how we are going to use our calculated, is selected measure function in our cube. Okay, what I do, I'll just simply create one more measure here, stating that I give a name for this measure called is selected measure. And the expression that I'm going to write here, selected measure. Okay, what I'll do, I will write the uh, functionality. Okay, here what I'll do, I'll write if is selected measure is sales at USD, sales at USD, then display the selected measure, which is sales net USD. Otherwise, what I want to do, I want to do the division. Okay, divide, and my selected measure divided by 10. So I will just create a calculate. Okay, calculate. So this is how I write my function. I hope all the brackets are closed correctly here. uh, selected measure, and here it's closed, and here it's closed, and here it's closed. Good. So now I'll parse the DAX query. It's parsed. Now I'm going to deploy my cube. It's deployed. Now I go back to the Excel file. Where is my Excel file? I'll just click the refresh all. Now you can see here is selected measure is part of our new calculation. Now what will happen, you can see I didn't select net USD. Instead of that I selected NDP USD. That's the reason my original value, sorry, yeah, if I, the expression that we wrote is, if it is a net USD selected, then display as it is. If it is a non-net USD, do the division by 10. So since we use the NDP USD we selected, that's the reason the original value, right, is did with division of 10. That's the reason the value get adjusted. Now I'll change this to net USD. Now you can see here the both these two values are same, right? So this is how you can play these I mean, in my scenario I used this is selected measure in my calculation group, but there can be other scenarios that you can use it to achieve the your business case. Okay, so that's about the is selected measure. Now we'll move on to the next function. Is subtotal function will help you to find out whether the particular row contains any subtotal value for the given column. Most of the time we use this is subtotal function along with summarize columns and other functions like roll up group functions. Basically it will help you whether the particular row, particular cell or particular column cell value is a grand total of the particular group. Okay, so that's how the is subtotal works. Now let's get into the example. So is subtotal will take the always column name as a parameter. It will take only one single value as a parameter. Now you can see here I'm using the summarize function. Within the summarize function I'm just doing the rolling up my grand totals at calendar year level. Each calendar year level, all the product category name, their sales value will be aggregated to the calendar year wise. Now let's execute this, then we'll get the examples. What happened? Oh, sorry. I used my retail queue, but the query was prepared using the DW. It works. But before that, if anyone want to know that how this rollup function works, rollup group function works, I would suggest to go to class 8. That's where I explained rollup group, is subtotal. But is subtotal, just I mentioned there, like how it works at high level. But the same examples I'm taking here to explain back. So, but yeah, to understand rollup and rollup group, I would suggest to go to this class 8 video and then come back to this video so that it will be easy. Now back to our topic. Here simply execute this. Now you can see here, here I'm getting the total grand total. That is my overall grand total. That is true. Calendar year level I have a grand total, and similarly for this level, is this grand total at all the years? No, that's the reason it's false. But however, for product category name level, this is the grand total, this particular cell. That's the reason it's written the true. And you can see here, wherever the product category names are end for the specific year, it's written the true for the true. Rest of the places it's written the false. Right. So this is the where you use the is subtotal function to identify the roll up and roll up group level. What is the cell value? It's whether it's individual cell value or subtotal. Okay, so that's about is subtotal function. Is-error function will help you to identify whether the particular given value is having any errors. If at all any value parsing error, then it will return the true. I mean, it will return the true. Otherwise, it will be written the false. Now let's get into the examples. So the is-error function will take the one parameter, the value. It's all the time it will take the value as input, and then it will return true or false. Most of the time we use this is error function to handle the division errors, right? Sometimes we'll have a valid error on the upper side divided by 0, you will get infinity, right? Or division error, right? So those scenarios we use the is error function to handle it. But here I covered a little more. I mean extra where and all you can use this is error function to handle it, because I used in my current project, especially on these two, right? Just let's go to the individual examples. The first one, what I'm doing here, I'm just evaluating what is the written value for okay, yeah, what is the written value for 1 divided by 0, 0 divided by 1. Normally 1 divided by 0 you will get infinity, and 0 by 1 you will get in the 0. But third value is we are having the problem because I use the string divided by 1, which is not a valid division, right? So that's the where I use the ISERROR function. Okay, if at all any calculation is written the error, then I would display simply 0. So I just pass the test divided by 1 to the isError function. Then I use the if condition to handle it. If the isError is true, then it will display the 0. Now it will execute this. Then you can see infinity 0 0 0. And similarly, I use the isError function for my fact cells. But here you can see I'm trying to get the data for these two values where my sales net USD is having these two values. I'm returning the information. Now you can see here only you get those two records belongs to the two values. Now the same case, there is a chance of sometimes you might get text value, some XYZ reasons, right? I mean, basically, these errors will be detected during the ETL process, right? But in the worst case scenario, I'm just explaining. Now here I got the is error. Okay, so some string value, it's written to the sales net USD. Those scenarios, I want to pass it as a 1 instead of failing the query. Right, now we'll execute this. What will happen? Now this time you get only records belongs to the 37780. Since you don't have a sales in net USD for 1, right? That's the reason there are no values, but the query is parsed successfully without any errors. So this is a scenario where you can use the isError. I mean, all these scenarios you can use the isError function to handle your use case. Is-even, is-odd functions both will help you to identify whether the given number is a even number or odd number. Basically, if it is if you are using the is-even function and you pass the even number, then it will return the true. Otherwise, it will return the false. And same case for the is-odd function. If the past value is odd, and then it will return the true. Otherwise, it will return the false. Okay, so let's go into some examples. These are the syntax for the two function. Basically, they will take only the number as input for both function. But yeah, some of the examples you can see here, I define the variable and I'm passing the variable to is even. If the 100 is even, then it will return the true. And if the 100 is odd number, then it will return the true. But 100 is not a odd number, right? That's the reason it is written the false. Not only that, you can also use it along with your columns. In here, I'm trying to see my base quantity is even or odd. Okay, so that's the way I embedded these two functions into my select statement. Okay, if at all the sales base quantity is having the even number, then that condition is satisfied equals to true, then display as even, otherwise display as a odd. Right? Same condition I wrote even with the is odd function. Now you can see here, some cases you will get even, some cases you will get odd. Okay, and you can see true or false for the other columns, right? Where I am checking the whether the particular base quantity is even or odd. Those scenarios, it's written the true, but the columns ending with 2, they written the customized message that I defined using the if condition. So that's how you use the even and odd functions in your regular scenarios. Next function is non-visual function. This is the one of the best function, I would say, where you can play with your group totals, and this function will only works with along with summarized columns. And what it will do, it marks a value filter in summarized column expression as a non-visual. What does that mean? So let's take the example and try to understand in better way. Now here is the queries. Here is some of the queries already wrote. What I'm doing here, I just created the roll-up group based on the year and trying to fetch the sales net USD by using the summarize function. What will happen? You get the year-wise sales. Each year, what is the sales and the grand total of the all years. That's how you will display here. And now, then what will happen when you use the treat as filter for the calendar year 2025, what it will do, it will filter out the data only for 2025. So instead of you're getting the grand total of all years, you will get only the individual value and grand total of the chosen year, which is 2025. But my requirement is I want to get the sales net USD for filter year, plus I want to display the grand total of all years. In such scenario, so non-usual function is very handy. You can see on the right side what I did here. I defined the measure, which is my sales net USD2, and here I'm calculating the passing the sales net USD measure for all the calendar years. When it comes to the summarize column, so if I don't use, let's say I don't use the non-usual function here, right? Now what will happen, we'll see. Right. Okay. So now if I execute this statement, what will happen? You get only the value of the 2025 because that's the one I filter out, right? Even the other measure, you also get only the same value, whatever you see under the first measure, because this measure that we created, right, that is also applied, impacted with this specific filter criteria, right? Now, instead of getting the selected year value as a grand total, now we can get this all years grand total, which is start with 4525. To do that, what we can do, we can simply use non-visual function, right? That's it. So once you use the non-visual function, it's automatically fetches the grand total of all years. You can see here. So you can see on the second measure grand total. At the same time, you can see the individual filter value. Now, if you can not only 1 year, you can extend this to another 2 years. Even if I take 2026, you can see here, same grand total will be displayed for the 2 rows. So entire throughout the value, I mean throughout this column, the value will be the same, but only in between these values will change. You can see here what is the value that you can see on the left side for 2025, 2026. It's the same value it's showing. Parallelly, you're getting the grand total. That's how you can use the non-visual function. Selected measure function, basically we use this selected measure function in our calculation part, where it will take the reference of the measure that been selected in the current context. So maybe you guys already remember that some couple of examples we used in the calculation group, right? Now here, if I go to the format sales value, under that we're trying to display our selected measure value in terms of the normal value format, $K format, $1,000,000 format, right? So for this, we define some formulas and logic. Now, if you look at here, the million format, right? Press F4. So here, I'm just applying the one expression. Okay, this is the dynamic expression. So what I want to do, whenever the user drag this calculation group, for the selected measure, it needs to be divided by the million. So that's the way the existing value will get converted into the million format instead of the dollar format. Now, this selected measure is, we don't know, right, which measure the user will select. It's always dynamic. So how it works, now let me show the Excel file. This is the Excel file, and refresh. And now if I go to here, show field list, and then I select the measure. So I remove this, and then what will happen, I select the rows and put this into here. Now you can see here, it will take your selected measure. This is our selected measure. Sum of sales net USD will be our selected measure. Take that selected measure as a reference, then it will apply the formulas dynamically to the remaining calculation groups. By the way, if you want to know more about calculation group, please go through my other video where I explained how these calculation group columns created, so that it will be easy. Now coming back to our point, so selected measure is nothing but whatever the user selected from the application, that will be taken to the tabular cube, and it will apply the all your calculations dynamically. So most of the scenario, we use that selected measure in our calculation groups. I mean, most of the time we use that in our calculation groups, because the calculation groups will help you to prepare your functionality logics more dynamically. That's about selected measure. We'll move on to the next function. Next function, we're going to talk about selected measure format string. This function will help you to format your measure value, whatever the measure value that we selected, right? To format that value, or you can represent it your own format strings. So those scenarios, we can use the selected measure format string. I'll just quickly go through the few examples. So where we can see the scenarios where we can use the this function. But yeah, most of the time, so right, all these format strings and all, we will be taken care on the Power BI or SSRS report side instead of handling through the tabular cube, because the tabular cube is like a repository of the data, so we don't want to apply any specific format strings within the tabular queue. But I have prepared one example where you can see that the scenario that I used to handle the some of the use case with help of the selected measure format string. So the scenario that I'm showing here, this time I'm taking the you know Power BI dashboard instead of Excel file, because when we're trying to use the format string with help of the Excel, it's not applying, because Excel is applying its own format values. That's the reason whatever we apply the functionality using the format string, it's not working here. That's the reason I have taken the Power BI desktop. Now here my scenario, I have selected one measure, okay, and along with that I'm using the sales values in calculation group. That is the calculation group that I created in my tabular cube. This is the calculation group where it will help you to show your values in the K format, million format, and you can also do some standard calculations, right? That I already explained in my previous video. What are the calculation groups and how it works? Now the calculation group here. What I'm trying to do, so I want to see define one column, and which will tell you whether the particular selected measure is the dollar value measure or units value measure. Now you can see here prod quantity I selected, right? So wherever the quantity, it's related to the units. It can be like a prod quantity or base quantity or total quantity. Wherever you have a quantity, it should your selected measure type should display the units. If I change these to non-quantity columns, then it will show the dollar value. Let me show that. So here I selected the dollar measure. Now this time it's showing the dollar value. So how I achieve this functionality? So I go to the tabular cube here. Under the tabular cube, so the existed calculation group, I have a selected created one more column. Under this column, I just define the expression, simple expression here, which is my selected measure. And under the format string, this is the where we use the our selected measure format string. So here I'm doing some search criteria. If my is selected measure is prod quantity, then display the format string as units. Otherwise, display the dollar values. So that's how I wrote this expression to achieve the this functionality. And not only that, so you can also use the you know these selected measure format string whenever you're selecting the like some other measures, right? Like whenever you select the weight measure, then you display the your format string units in the pounds, or else you can display in the some other format. So those scenarios you can use the selected measure format string. As I mentioned, so I don't want to pump up all these format string conditions with my tabular cube. That's the reason I didn't use this function much. So I let my Power BI team control all these functionality within their Power BI side. So that's how I managed. I mean, this is how we can use the selected measures format string. But don't worry, when we come to the Power BI classes, I will give more examples on this selected measure format string. But for now, I can cover only this simple example with using the tabular cube. So that's about selected measure format string. We'll move on to the next function. Selected measure name, it will help you to what is the measure that you selected in the current context. So based on this measure selection, you can flip the formulas within the calculation group. So remember that all these selected measure format string, selected measure name, is selected measure, most of the time we use these four functions in the calculation groups. Now let's get into the example of selected measure name. I'll go to here in my tabular cube. What I'll do here, so I will create one more new calculation item. So calculation item, I'll give a name, selected measure name. That is my column name. Here what I'll do, I'll write simple if expression. So selected measure name. If my selected measure name is net USD, then I want to selected measure. I wanted to multiply with 5. Otherwise, selected measure multiply with. I'll put it like 25. So this is the expression I want to write. I mean, here you can. So previously, the other function that we talked about, right? Selected measure. This selected measure and selected measure name is different. Selected measure, whatever you're going to use, you need to use that with coming with your fact table. Let's say I'll give one more example. Selected. What I'll do. Let me take out. One second. Yeah. Let me parse this, but let me go to here. Is selected measure, right? So this is the where we write. Yeah, you can see here when we use the is selected measure, we have embedded with our fact table and then our measure table, right? But selected measure name, it will help you to use the calculation measures. Sometimes we use the calculation measures, right? So those scenarios, we can use the selected measure name simply without binding any fact table, and then we can write our own formulas. Now let me deploy these selected measure name function. So that's it deployed. Now I go to the Excel and I refresh my app. So okay, it seems there is an issue with the selected measure function. Let me see. Sorry, I think I need to use this way. Sorry, not inside. We need to use like this. Right? It will take only the one value. So please remember that. Selected measure name only takes the one value, but whereas the is selected measure will take the group of measures. Here you can use the group of measure kind of list. You can pass it to the is selected measure function, but whereas the selected measure name only takes the single value. Now let me deploy this. Start and deployed, and here okay, so go to the Excel file and refresh. Now you can see here, so selected measure type is not this one. Where is our measure? Yeah, is selected measure name. So here I selected, let me show you the field list. Where is my fields? Sorry, it went to down. So here I selected sales net USD. That's the reason the original value multiplied with 5. That's the reason this is the value it's arrived. Now I change this to NDP USD. Then it's multiplied with 25. Right. So that's how you can use the selected measure name. So the user culture function, it will help you to translate your dashboard headers based on the user local language selection. Local language in the sense, you might have one report, so that report will be accessed globally, right? Where you have users from Germany, users from Spain, and some other places, right? But if you want to work your report like globally based on the user local language, the Windows OS language, whatever they select. Based on that, if you want to change your headers into their local, so you can use the user culture function. Usually we take care of this functionality within our tabular cube under the translations. That's how we can manage it. But in some scenarios there is a necessity that you need to handle the things from the Power BI side, right? Such scenarios you can use the user culture function. But presently I'm using my laptop is US English language that I'm using. Maybe I can give some example how you can use the user culture function. So this is the report I prepared, Power BI report. Here, so when the user select his local language is English US, right? Then the column that I defined, right, it will show only bike sales value in US format. Otherwise, it will show in the different format. So how I did this, so what I did, I created one column. I just wrote the column stating that switch the user culture. So this is how it works. It will take the user culture. The user culture is nothing but whatever the language that the user selected. In our scenario, I selected EN-US, that is my language. When it's been selected this, then it will show the only bike sales value in US format. That is what I'm displaying. Otherwise, it will show the only bike sales. Now, since I selected English US, let me change this language setting. I go to here, under the file, go to the options. Under the options, I will get the options. Come on. Okay, so I got here options. Under the options, I go to the current file and change the regional settings. Here I'll change to uh, what I can do. I will change to some other English word or something. Click OK. Okay, and then click apply the changes. Now let's see what will happen. Whether still it will take my voice language, or it will take the okay. So the different culture can be specified culture options. Okay. Analysis service does not support the EM001 culture. A different culture can be specified using the culture option. Okay, so now I'm not able to select other things. So what I can do is simply I can change this expression for demo purpose, right? Instead, if the user selected this, then what I'll do, I will just move this statement to false condition. So the true condition will be this time only bike sales, and the false condition will be only bike sales values in US format. I will apply. Now you can see, right? It changes. I think, yeah, it changed. Again, I need to go back and do these settings in my file. Now let me do that. Right. Okay. So I go to the options, file options, and then it will open the options. Come on. Yeah. Under my regional settings, I change back to English, United States. Click OK. Okay. So that's how you can pay. I mean, basically the culture function will help you to translate any word. So, right, sometimes you might use some headers, and those headers needs to be displayed in your local language. In such scenarios, you can use the culture function to capture what is the user local language, the voice language settings that he selected. Based on that, you can change the Power BI behavior, Power BI dashboard headers. So that's how the culture function works. Then we'll move on to the next functions. So these three functions, username and user object ID and user principal name. Username function will just print what is the current user that is connected. Maybe I mean, it's a simple whoever connected to the tabular cube or Power BI. So the current user login details it will fetch. So how you can get the current user login fetch? So I'm going to create one variable using the DAX query. So here what I'll do, user name, I'll put it, and evaluate print the name. So that's it. So this is the user that currently connected to the system. Now I'll say this one is M1 because I'm going to cover the other two functions, right? So the next function that we are going to use is our user object ID. Okay, so we'll write the user object ID. Now this time I'll give my variable name is 2. So user object ID is nothing but it's a SID. Okay, so you will have a profiler. Each profile in the Windows, it will be embedded with one unique ID, right? So that's SID is getting printed here by using the user object ID function. In case if you want to see uh, physically what is this user object ID in your Windows, then you need to go to the your regedit keys. Okay, regedit keys. Under the regedit keys, I'll quickly show you where exactly you can go in. Right. Okay. So in the registry keys, so this is the path you can see. That's the where you can find it. Now you can see here. The IDs that you get it here, SID, and here what you see under the profile list are both are same. So how do you can see? You need to go to the registry editor under the computer. You need to go to the HKY local machine under the software and Microsoft Windows NT current version profile list, and then you will get your user object ID. Right. So the next one is the next function is user principal name. So usually user principal name is nothing but your whatever the your company profile, right? So you will have a kind of one email ID, right? So the company email ID that will be printed here. So I okay. Now if I execute this, then you can see here. Oh, sorry, M3 variable I printed, and then you can see here it's fetched the your company email ID, basically, put it simply. Okay, so these three variables, most of the time we use to control the user security. So there is different ways to handle the security, right? So one way you can control to the roles by creating these roles. You can add the user profile to the role, then we can control the security. The other one is the you can have the user IDs and their email IDs in the tables, and those tables we can join to our model, and then we can control the data. In such scenarios, the user principal name and username will help you to filter out the data. Moreover, the username will provide the details of the current login user using the domain name. What is the domain name and the username? Whereas the user principal name, it will give the simply your organization email ID. So that's about these three functions. By the way, so user object ID, I don't know which scenario we use the user object ID, but yeah, so sometimes if you want to control your data based on the profiler IDs, right? So based on the standard profile IDs, you can use the user object ID to control the you can provide the data restriction to the users. That's about these three functions. So with this, we pretty much covered all the 32, information DAX information functions. That's about these 32 functions. Please let me know if this video is useful, and you can share your comments in the comment section. If you like the video and the video is useful, please hit a like button so that it will reach to the more users. That's all for now. We'll see you in the next video with a different topic. Thank you.